Welcome to the AppInTop Mobile App Marketing Podcast.
For so many mobile app developers, it's an all-or-nothing battle out there in the App Store.
This AppInTop podcast is your mobile app marketing advantage.
Let's get that new app of yours moving to the top.
This is the AppInTop Mobile App Marketing Podcast.
And now your host, Michael Bauer.
Welcome. This is indeed the AppInTop Mobile App Marketing Podcast. This podcast is produced by AppInTop.com. You can find the daily blog at blog.appintop.com. Also track us down at facebook.com/AppInTop. And, of course, on Twitter at AppInTop_com. That's AppInTop_com. Apple is on a mission to make App Store ratings reflect the true state of the app world, and Apple wants real reviews, not fake ones, so it fights with artificially inflated App Store rankings and ratings. Today, we address Apple's rules, its crackdown of incent ads, and find out what alternative tools are available to developers to attract new users. And our guide through that world today is Appsfire CEO Ouriel Ohayon. How are you today, sir?
Doing great. Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much for joining us. Personally, what do you think about Apple's fight of incent traffic?
Overall, I think it's a good thing as long as the rules are a little clearer and that they enforce them consistently, but we'll talk about that.
So the idea, in theory, it sounds good. Let's see how it actually falls together in practice.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. Apparently, Apple's not allowing any more of the incent videos or incent downloads. It allows no more apps offers. How does this affect a place like Appsfire?
So just maybe 2 words on Appsfire. So for many years, we've been developing an app recommendation engine in the App Store. And for many reasons, including App Store regulations, we decided to move out of this activity and convert to a network. So we provide an alternative to developers who want to monetize their app with better advertising, with native advertising, with elegant, beautifully designed ads that perform very well. And we don't do any kind of incentivized advertising, even if the line is gray and there are possibilities to do it. We decided, as a strategic reason to be 100% non-incentivized. So if a developer wants to put some advertising in his apps, he can use us as a solution. We work directly with nearly 200 publishers today, app developers, and on the other side, we work directly with advertisers, and we connect both and make both happy.
Now, was that a move that you guys had been planning on, or was it sort of related to the Apple rules banning app discovery apps?
Yeah, so this is a decision that has been accelerated by by the rules. So what happens is that when we started off 4 years ago, we were probably the very first company in the world to start addressing the problem of app discovery. There was absolutely no rules. So we started to do that. And we had already an understanding from Apple that it was a gray area, but it was not really regulated. And over time, they added more and more rules. The other thing that we saw is that although the service that we were providing was great, it was inverted quotes only growing at a pace of 500,000 downloads per month without advertising, which is great for many developers, but our ambition was a lot stronger. So this plus the new regulations drove us to take that decision. So we planned it over a year, right? It was not something that we decided from one day to another to move out from the previous activity to the new activity. But that's something that the rules have accelerated in our mind. And actually, we removed both the iOS app and the Google Play app, and we now 100% focus on servicing developers.
Gotcha. Now, in your experience, and maybe even prior to this change that came a year ago, had you seen a decline in the percentage of incent users becoming active or even playing?
You meaning about number of services that are using less incentivized advertising?
Yes.
No, the opposite. We saw actually an increase in the number of services that are using incentivized advertising. And that's for many reasons. Although Apple has already been clear in the past with services like Tabjoy and everything, there was some kind of gray area where, although they were saying it was not right, they were letting that happen. So I think it opened the door to more and more services to come to that market. The second thing that also happened is that a lot of those services operated through a web browser versus operating through a native app itself.
Right.
And so you saw a lot of services like Free My Apps of Fixu and others taking off at very, very large scale. And Apple has done absolutely nothing about those. Let them go completely free. And in addition of incentivized download, you've seen a new kind of generation of services for incentivizing a lot of other things that are not related to the download, like ratings and reviews, or even paid services that you can pay companies or even users to download or to rate an app. And in parallel, bots activity have also taken place, like services that allow you to buy a very high number of Unreal installs, whether they are done by machines or whether they are done by human people who get paid in exchange. Mm-hmm. And there is also kind of also a new mechanic in the App Store, which is kind of the cloning activity. So it's not really any kind of incentive, but what I would say is that it participates into the chapter of kind of, and there's no other word, but kind of polluting the App Store and also kind of mixing the rules or changing the rules of how you have to compete when you are app developers with others, and makes it a lot more difficult. And finally, you saw a new generation of services during the past year and a half that are incentivized, but that are not incentivizing the download of an app, right? So they are incentivizing the viewing of an advertising, or they are providing incentives for something that is unrelated to the download of an app. So they will give you a coupon at Target, or they will give you a promo code for this service or that service. Right. So there's been kind of a huge influx of all sorts of services that have taken off during this past year or two.
Now, with that, and we're talking with the CEO of Appsfire, Ouriel Ohayon. I'm curious, as you've seen sort of the fluid motion of things changing in regards to the App Store, and specifically in the case of Apple having this war that they're waging, if you will, do you feel like there's a need to remain fluid? Like at any moment, Apple could change their mind on another direction, another way that they are currently handling a situation in the App Store, and thus you guys will have to change with the times as well? How are you kind of keeping ahead of the game at Appsfire?
Well, the way we think about it is that Apple and Google and Facebook and others are platforms. And when you are working for a platform, you have to be aware that you cannot do whatever you want, and that the rules, no matter how they are looking today, can change tomorrow. So, one default principle that we have is avoiding gray areas, right? So if there is, in case of doubt, if there is a doubt, just don't do it. Don't play with the fine line, because it's supposed to change. It can change anytime. Actually, in both directions, recently, it looks like Apple is moving backwards on incentivized video viewing. We'll talk about that. It's not completely clear yet, but there are some kind of up and downs even with the platform when they don't even know what they really want to do. But if you look at the web, just Google and Facebook. I mean, look what Google does every quarter with their search algorithm. They change the rules, and then you have to reinvent the wheel to get your site discovered through their search engine. And Facebook has notoriously killed a lot of companies with their platform. When they change the rules about how events are displayed in the newsfeed and force them out to other platforms. So what we think of is, Apple is a platform with rules that are going to change, that will change 100%, and that has gray areas, and that, the way we think about it is to avoid gray areas. But, some companies are fine playing with those gray areas and are kind of bending the rules or kind of hacking the rules. It's always very risky, especially when you want to build a very large business, especially when you reach a critical size and suddenly you have to change the direction. So you have to always be kind of aware of that. But it's a platform business. It's not like you can do whatever you want, and even if it sounds right, even if it looks right, that will go on. Sometimes it's not even logical. Sometimes the change is driven by political reasons. Sometimes the change is driven by just the desire for control, and not necessarily for what's best for the user, what's best for the developer, what's best for the market. All right, it's a platform business, and it's a control business.
It's what's best for the platform at that point. You know what? I have this. I have a 7-year-old daughter, Ouriel, and with that, there are times where she's trying to push boundaries, right? And she thinks that she can kind of push rules a little bit, or she does. She has this law where she figures it's easier to ask forgiveness than it is to ask permission. So what you're saying about the gray area portion is don't make those mistakes, especially as far as developers go. If there's a question, just don't do it. Do you have any examples where apps that use incentives for users to download apps have already been banned? Do you have? What does that mean to be banned? And do you have an example of that for us?
I have a few examples live. I mean, one app recently, which I've been vocal about it on Twitter because it was really obvious, is that there was an app that was kind of manipulating the way we're collecting ratings and reviews in the App Store. It was very high ranked, and the app was called Better Fonts or something like that. And like in a very short period of time, they collected 10 times more positive reviews than Facebook over the whole lifetime, right?
Wow.
So you know something's not right.
There's a red flag right there.
Yeah, there's a red flag, but it was there for a while, so nothing happened, and then suddenly, from one day to another, all the ratings of this app were erased, were just gone. It's the first time I saw that.
Wow.
Normally, Apple either remove the app or whatever else, contact the developer. Here they basically simply deleted 20,000+ 4 or 5-star ratings of this app, just like that. And the way it was working is that you were using this app to have all kinds of original fonts, and they were telling you like, hey, you want more free fonts, so just leave us a 5-star rating. And Apple prohibits techniques that incentivize the collection of ratings of reviews, or manipulates the way you collect them. Whether this is by free techniques or even by paid techniques. So it's the first time I see that. There is another app right now in the App Store doing that. I'm not sure what Apple will do with it. It's very high ranked. It's very visible in the App Store. It's even featured by Apple. So it begs the question, how does Apple control those mechanics and those things? And it looks like it's like they are reacting to things when they happen rather than trying to identify them at the core. So it's still happening. And unfortunately, when it happens, you have a dramatic, it's dramatic for you because you're losing all the things that you collected wrongfully. But so what happened after that is that the app basically crashed down to nowhere, right? Because it looks like the ratings were helping them because of the algorithm, keeping their top position in the App Store. And the second the ratings were gone, they couldn't stay there. So they just crashed down.
Wow.
And now they are nowhere.
Now, with the concept you were talking earlier about the gray area and staying away from it, is that the only advice that you would have for a client or somebody that you're speaking with and how to play nicely with Apple? But then what do you do, and what's some advice that you have for somebody that still wants to promote, get exposure, top ranking, hopes, all those kinds of dreams, yet still playing nice with Apple?
Well, it depends on which side of the coin you are. You have the developers who want to make money, and you have the developers who want to promote their applications. The rules of Apple are basically, don't hack ways to gain users and to gain your reviews. Paying a user, incentivizing the install of an app, no matter how, is not something that is welcome by Apple, and they've said it very, very clearly. They just want you to access to organic ways to get installs. So you either get featured by Apple or you use traditional ad networks that are relying on non-incentivized formats or on PR. There are a lot of ways, or get discovered through influential people. Like I can give you a couple of examples, but recently some games just pumped in the top ranks in the App Store because some guys on YouTube who has a lot of viewers have reviewed them, and boom, they were there. So there is a lot of ways where you can get your app discovered without playing those tricks.
Gotcha.
And the tip I would give to developers is that if you are feeling that you are going to play with an incentivized download, and you want to make sure that you're completely in compliance with the store rules, just don't do it, right? So just don't do it. The gray area is around incentivized videos. Let me come back. If you want to do incentives, you can do it, but make sure they are not related to the App Store, right? So you can reward your users with coupons and to the real world store or to whatever, but don't reward an install and don't reward something that is related to the activity of an app in the App Store, the ratings, the reviews, the kind of things they can get for free, like in-app purchase, etc. Don't do it. That seems to be the direction. Apple overall, I think, has a kind of a consistent policy of trying to make the store, cleaner and better. I'm not sure they're managing to do it because the amount of crap that there is in the App Store is absolutely amazing.
Right.
And there are still apps that are gaming, the system at scale, and there is live examples of apps being featured by Apple themselves that do it. And because there's always a backdoor, there's always a way. No matter how many rules Apple will have, there will always be someone that is extremely creative or very, very smart that will find a backdoor to game the system. So the system has limits, and limits can be broken always. It's true in security, it's true in anything. But it doesn't mean that you have to go that way. If you want to make sure that you're building a lasting business, you have to make sure that you are there are enough recipes to make a very sustainable, very successful business without having to do that. And the very first tip that I would say is focus a lot more effort on building a great app, rather than finding tricky techniques to get discovered or to make money.
It comes down to that rule again. It's like the rules of real estate: location. In this case, when you're talking about apps, it's content. Have that content ready to go.
It's true and it's not true. I mean, content is very important, but unfortunately, the App Store is full of the App Store cemetery is full of great apps. A great business is a combination of a great app and consistent marketing efforts that are a combination of a lot of parameters, right? So free marketing techniques, paid marketing techniques that are respectful of the App Store rules. And that effort should be consistent over time, and it should start even before the moment you release the app. So, just to give you some, element, great apps usually have a great app trailer or great way to tease developers and users before they're released. They manage to get to influential people. They get good PR, and they do that on a very, very regular basis. They also, try to, innovate all the time and bring new stuff that are, rewarding to their user base, and that will generate a lot of word of mouth. And they also build the mechanism to accelerate this word of mouth. So it's not just like they rely on the app to be great. So it's a combination of like a great service and a great consistent marketing effort that is carried over time.
All right, here's what we do. We're going to take a quick break here. And Ouriel, when we come back, in your opinion, we'll find out what the future of incent ads are and what advantage does Appsfire have, what it is, and how you guys use it, without giving everything away. That's seconds away from now on the AppInTop podcast. This podcast is produced with support from AppInTop, an automated mobile app marketing platform in App Store and Google Play. This is the AppInTop mobile app marketing podcast. I'm Mike Bauer. Appsfire is an advertising technology company that has introduced a number of native ad formats and goes head-to-head with Facebook and Twitter in enabling app advertisers to deploy native ads to acquire new users. Joining us today is Appsfire CEO and App Store Venture Guide, at least through today, Ouriel Ohayon. Now, Ouriel, quickly, if you may,
Sorry.
I've got my pith hat on, and I've got my jacket ready to go as you guide us through this all. What do you see right now is the future of incent traffic? What are we looking at, especially with Apple and the announcement that they've got for the iOS 8 and things changing? What do you see being the future?
It's very hard to say. I mean, on one side they say don't do incentivized installs. On the other side, you can still see a lot of services that are operating and that are out there. My take is that it will be very, very hard for Apple to consistently enforce that rule. That will be kind of a Russian roulette kind of way of applying it, and because there are so many apps and there are so many ways where you can hide how you can put an incentivized system into your app. Just to give you an idea, I just saw this game. You play it and suddenly you die or whatever, and then they tell you, "Yeah, you want me to save you," and you press that button, and it opens an offer wall with app install offers right there. So whoever is reviewing that game has to really go through all that process. And if you have to do that over thousands and thousands or tens of thousands of apps, it's just not possible. So I doubt Apple will ever manage to sustain that. What can happen, though, is that the demand for this type of solution from advertisers, because of the signal Apple gives, will dramatically decrease. So, people, when they were saying, let's put 50% of our budget into incent, 50% in non-incent, maybe they will hesitate more about doing that now.
Sure.
Because it looks like the message from Apple is clearer. What seems to be something that they tolerate is, again, incentivize that are not related to the App Store, and also incentivizing the viewing, not very dissimilar to the incentivized system as we know it. I think Apple seems to tolerate it. They seem to come back from where they were. Although I'm still hearing some confusing messages that not every app is let go through with it, and that Apple may not have made their mind because there was so much noise about the developer community that they let it go for now. But that's unclear. So that's, for me, in the gray area, right?
Yes.
Incentivized viewing for me is a gray area. It may go through for a while, and maybe that will change or morph or take a different way of executing it than it is today. Because to be frank, it's very, very it's very tricky. Let's talk about that specifically, right? The way incentivized video work is that they tell you, hey, instead of buying whatever coins or virtual goods, why don't you watch a video for an app, or
right.
For an app. So what happens is you press that button and they start to play that video for X second. Usually you cannot stop it. You have to watch it at least for the majority of the time. And then once this is over, you have a big screen saying, all right, install the app now. So this is the way usually they are implemented. And what really happens is that until that moment, the user absolutely has no idea when he gets his reward, right? So Does he have to go through the install itself, or has he been rewarded already? There is this kind of gray area that is maintained probably on purpose, so it drives the install of the application. And if the format was really clear, there would be kind of a very simple message at the end of the video. Hey, you just earned your reward. Go back, play the game. And by the way, maybe you want to install the app.
Right.
Should I have to install this app because the screen is so big, and it seems like it's a continuous part of the video, or did I get it? And I think that's something the providers of those formats maybe will have to make some change, or maybe think about it differently and understand why they operate it like that. And it's just to make sure that the user gets to install the app after that. And the bottom line is that there is a gray area here. Maybe things will have to change so that they are more compliant with the store, or maybe not, or maybe Apple will just tolerate that. But for me, that's kind of an area where something is not clear yet.
Yeah.
Finally, also, there's something that's kind of surprising regarding rewarding videos, is that the kind of solution to basically replace in-app purchase to get something that you should normally buy with in-app purchase, and you get it for free. And there is a rule in the App Store. I think it's Rule 11.2, where it's clearly said, you should not implement any kind of system that replaces in-app purchase to get, whatever you're trying to get.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're saying to someone, don't buy it, just watch a video or whatever tomorrow, or answer a poll or whatever it will be tomorrow,
right?
To get it for free, it's kind of hacking this rule, right? And then you're replacing in-app purchase in order to get that,
right?
So maybe Apple will also consider that. Maybe they won't, but I was surprised that they were not more recording about this earlier on.
Yeah, it does seem like they've waited to make the announcement, and there's a lot of sort of chasing the tail that seems like it's going to have to go on here. Now, as we've been talking about Apple's fight over incent traffic, you said the database of App Store data called App Genome will be your main advantage. What is it, and how are you guys using it?
Oh, the App Genome is basically a huge app database that we've been building for the past 4 years, which are elements that are part of the App Store, but also that have been collected through the web, things like reviews from popular websites, likes and tweets from influential users or less influential users, all sorts of signals that help us qualify or determine the quality of an app and its relation with other apps. And one of the reasons we like this asset is because it helps us build a better, at the time it used to help us build a great recommendation engine, but it was downloaded something like 12 million times, and until today it's loved, but now we're not in that business anymore. So it helps us building a great ad algorithm to make sure we are not serving apps or ads of apps that are not relevant or that are of low quality or that are not relevant to such and such user, or make sure that we are not overexposing a user to an app is not likely to like, et cetera, et cetera. So for us, it's kind of a huge intelligence mechanism to make sure that we deliver better ads to the user. Better ads is not just what it looks like, but also how it's delivered and how it works behind the scene. So for us, it's something that we've invested a lot on and that we like a lot.
Now, in regards to monetization, what tools do you use? And more importantly, why should I monetize my app via Appsfire?
So what our philosophy about ads is that they should look good, and is that they should feel part of the experience, and that they should give enough control back to the publisher so he can integrate the advertising experience respectfully of the user and in accordance to the experience of his app. So the solution that we've designed are all of that together, right? They look great, they look gorgeous. It's always, retina-ready design, very, very well crafted. We pay a lot of attention to the smallest pixel. Make sure that an ad is readable, that it's clear, that it's not misleading, etc., etc. We make sure also that the publisher, so the one who's hosting the ad, has enough control about what he can serve, how we can serve it, where we can place it, the way it looks. And we provide enough variety of formats, some of which are patent pending and quite unique in the industry, so that they can perfectly fit in the experience of the app and not disrupt too much the user. An ad is always disrupting, right? No matter how well you do it. The question is do you really want to bug the user, or can you try to do it more elegantly? So we try to design 4 formats, which can be seen on our website with live demos, which really fits the experience of the user as he surfs or how he browses the app he's using. So overall, it provides a better ad experience for the publisher, better ad experience for the user, and for the advertiser, the end result is great because it's all of that. It performs extremely well, and therefore for the publisher it pays better. So all those reasons are good for consideration.
Now, and with that in mind, and with the ever-changing rules going on at places like the Apple App Store, what would you say to a developer who's coming to you and concerned about the reviews inside the App Store that, of course, help your ratings? What kind of tools do you guys use? What would you say to somebody coming to you to talk about that aspect?
So obviously, the first thing we would say is, don't try to manipulate or collect the ratings or the reviews, by paying users or by manipulating your existing users to artificially post reviews or ratings in the App Store.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the first tip. The second tip is I would point them to one of our solutions. So we provide a lot of free services to publishers and to our advertisers to make sure that they market better their app. And one of the tools that we offer is a feedback system. We actually invented the first feedback system years ago, and now it's been copied by many companies. but it doesn't matter.
Right. It's flattery. It's flattery, right, Ouriel? It's flattery.
Exactly. But we have a very popular feedback system, which basically helps the developer or the publisher collect positive or negative feedback right into his app before they get to the App Store. So it helps decrease dramatically the number of negative reviews. And they go straight to the developer instead of getting to the App Store, sometimes for bad reasons. Your Wi-Fi is dead. You think it's the developer's fault, so you're going to contact him. At least you have a chance to answer before the bad review gets in the App Store for the wrong reason.
Gotcha.
Sometimes for the good reason, so at least you can talk directly to the publisher, to the user. And if the review is positive, which is great, so the developer knows about it. But then once the feedback is posted, we invite the user, only if he wants to, and it's a yes/no button to post the same review in the App Store, and so you can increase organically the number of positive reviews you were collecting anyway because the review was positive.
Right.
So this tool is great for app developers in order to help them accelerate the way they decrease negative reviews and increase positive reviews.
We will find out momentarily what defines a quality user, how she is measured. Plus, I'm going to ask you, Ouriel, to get that crystal ball out in just a moment with CEO of Appsfire, Ouriel Ohayon, in seconds here on the AppInTop podcast. This podcast is produced with support from AppInTop, an automated mobile app marketing platform in App Store and Google Play. This indeed is the AppInTop mobile app marketing podcast. I'm Michael Bauer, your host. We would like to hear from you, so please send us your comments via Facebook at facebook.com/AppInTop, or tweet us your questions, comments, and thoughts at AppInTop_com. AppInTop_com. His company, Appsfire. The company runs a Tumblr blog, crappy-mobile-ads.tumblr.com, fighting ineffective banner ads and generally making the world a better place in doing so, in my opinion. He's the Appsfire CEO and App Store Adventure Guide. Today, Ouriel Ohayon. I know that's not on your business card. Perhaps it needs to be added to your business card there, Ouriel.
Maybe it's good that you spotted it because it's officially on our website. And we see so many bad apps when we work with developers. We have to tell them, and we had the idea of just putting it out there, and it looks like the industry likes it, so we keep doing it all the time.
It's I definitely find myself viewing it quite a lot and going, oh God, that's awful. But you know what? That's exactly what it's about, and it's not necessarily a slapping somebody in the face as much as it is probably just an opening their eyes, as the case may be. Let's talk about the quality of users. For you, what is a quality user, and what are the metrics that describe her?
So obviously, a quality user is a human being first, and it's not a data point or something.
Right.
That you have some sort of engaged relation with, right? So, and it doesn't mean that you have to talk to him every day, but in some sort there is an exchange of interaction that is taking place on a regular basis. So any app has a different story. Some apps are meant to be used every day. Some other apps are meant to be used once a week. Some are just meant to be used once a month. So every app has its own story and should be considered in this context. But the point is, whatever the context, you have to make sure that there is a frequency of usage or the frequency of interaction that's coming back. And you have to make sure that you've built the right app and the right mechanism to make sure that this happens. And of course, the right tools to measure that this happens. It's very hard to speak in very broad terms.
Sure.
But the philosophy is, try to imagine what your app frequency should be, and try to imagine the right mechanisms to make sure that this frequency is optimized, and try to make sure you have the right tools and the right analytics services to measure that. And most importantly, try to make sure that you try to improve that all the time.
How much more does it? I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off there. How much more does it cost to acquire this quality user as opposed to an average market CPI? What's the difference in there?
Now, everyone has its own definition.
Sure.
Right now, if you're talking about, different market research that have been done out there, is that in the US and some top tier Western countries, having a new installed user, a new user installing your apps and opening up at least once, so it doesn't mean that it's engaged.
Right.
It just means that it's been installed at least and viewed at least once.
Right.
And in non-incentivized way, the cost is somewhere between $1.5 and $3 in general. It can go a lot higher. It can be a lot less. I know developers who tell me, I managed to get an install for 30 cents, but then when you ask about the volume of what they managed to get, they acquired 100 users. That doesn't mean anything. So right. I'm talking about a decent volume, something that is meaning of scale. We're talking about thousands or tens of thousands. That's more or less the case. But now the cost of acquiring an engaged user is a big question mark. No one has an answer to that. It's very different from a developer that's making a game to a developer who's making a calculator app or a weather app. That's completely different. So everyone has his own story. The most important parameter is to make sure that whatever you spend, you get back, right? So, whatever, money you put on marketing or efforts to market your app, you should get back in making money back from, the number of users that are really going to engage with your app. So some will evaluate that with, directly with cash, all right, revenues that they make by selling in-app purchase, or app transactions, or e-commerce revenues, or subscription revenues. Some don't care about revenues and will measure other things like, usage of the app, right? If you're a bank, you're not going to measure the number of transaction in your app, because it's not how you make money.
Right.
You're going to measure, for example, how much money you saved to branches by not having people getting to your branch and disturbing your employees there when everything was possible to be done online or on the app. So every app has a different context and should be measured differently, and that's why there is no true answer to what's the cost of an engaged user over time.
So there's no blanket answer per se, and it should be specific to whatever your app is. But there is there's at least a concept there, and if you will, while you're filling in the numbers, there's an equation that you can be using in order to figure that out.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. So the most important thing is the process. So you need to have a process to make sure that you're aware of the necessity of measuring that, of improving that, and of building a product that serves that purpose.
Now, Appsfire is on the mission, we talked about this earlier, to make ads native, pleasant for the users. How does the effectiveness of the native ads better than regular ads?
Oh, it's order of magnitude better. I mean, we're talking about a factor of time 10 or time 20.
Wow.
Compared to traditional banners, especially if they are crappy, like the one that we see.
Like the ones on the Tumblr page. Yes.
on the Tumblr page. Surprisingly, some crappy ads will have some very short-term good performances. I mean, I can point you to some of the creatives in the crap page that have amazing click-through rates, but that have a catastrophic conversion rate.
Yeah.
So many times the advertisers are deceived by the apparent short-term metrics that are the click-through rates. They say, oh, wow, I got 20% click-through rate on that banner, but it happens that this banner was claiming something that was deceiving, was advertising the same banner again and again. Like you have this typical get a free game now, right? Banner which says, oh wow, I'm going to get a free game now, but when you click on it, you discover that it's an ad for this app you're already on that has been advertised over and over again.
Right.
So zero conversion behind it. So traditionally, traditional formats gets more and more ignored by the new generation of users. They've learned to ignore them. They've learned to make sure that they don't pay attention to those because this is the way they operate, the way they think, and they've been tried in using great apps, great-looking apps, and they won't get deceived by just a tricky banner. So the performance of those banners decrease. The number of the level of fraud on these traditional formats is increasing, and therefore there's a true problem in the industry. How do you capture quality attention again? So what we've managed to do, and some other companies try to do that too, is to really make sure that the experience is embedded in the core of the experience while you're using the app. For example, one of the formats that we have is a pull to refresh format, right? While you're pulling to refresh your email client or your social network, we're going to use that white space while you're waiting and your attention is available, and put the advertising there. You can dismiss it in one click, right? So you're not forced to even view it,
or try to find the little X to shut it out. It's just simple pull down. Yeah.
Exactly. You just swipe up the same way you would do. You just swipe up and it's gone.
Yeah.
Right. So you don't need to think about how you get rid of it. And but the percentage of people who are interacting with that is just amazing. We're talking about traditional banners have click-throughs that are way inferior to 1%. Here we're talking about click-throughs that are way superior to 2%. So that proves that the tolerance to these new formats is very, very positive. But most importantly, conversion and the acceptation of the install app, so that is very, very good. We're talking about conversion ratio that are way superior to 5%, that usually go up to 20%. Gotcha. And that's way above the average industry, which is usually in the single-digit percentages. So overall, we're pretty happy about those numbers. I must disclose that we are new in the space. We just launched all of that 6 months ago, and before that we were nowhere. So right now we are already are only present in about 200 apps, but some of them are very, very visible in the App Store. They are present in some of most popular apps in the App Store, and with some of the most prestigious developers out there. And so hopefully in the next few weeks, we're going to make more announcements, and we're going to onboard a lot more big-name publishers.
Well, and it also sounds like as the rules from the Apple App Store either become clearer or murkier, as the case may be, you guys should probably receive more business that way. Give me an example of one app that promoted very well through native ads. An example, if you could give me one.
We have an app that is right now in the App Store. It's called Private Vault. It's a folder app where you put all sorts of private documentation, like your pictures and your contracts or whatever, then no one can access it except you. I think it's a number 100 something in the App Store consistently over time, so it's got a big audience, and so we got our ads there, and algorithm has managed to find that some of these users are to some of apps, and I cannot disclose who because there is NDA. A couple of advertisers have seen a ratio of 20%, which is like unheard of experience, which is great. It's like beautiful slider format, does not overlay your experience in the app, but still presents the ad in a convenient way.
Sure. It's
very hard to describe, but you have to look at the website to understand.
Right.
And but the ad also itself was great looking. So what we do is that we take the assets from the App Store in real time, and we render automatically, and we localize automatically. Very important. The ad in 25 languages. So if your Spanish device is in Spanish, you won't get an ad in English, or even worse.
Yeah.
So the combination of all those formats, like this great display, receptive audience, localized advertising, great advertiser, great assets from the App Store, generated a very high conversion ratio.
All right, Ouriel, I don't know where you keep it in your office at the moment, but I want you to pick up your native ads crystal ball and tell me about the future. Here's the question. What do you see the future of native ads being? Will advertisers completely switch to native?
That's very hard to say. I mean, I'm not sure they will switch to native. I'm sure of one thing, is that advertising, as we know it today, will change dramatically in the next couple of years. So that may be a switch to native formats, to something else. We don't like so much this expression. We like to call it better advertising, better ad experience. What we know is that all the growing platforms from Facebook to Twitter to Pinterest have understood that, and that the rest of the web will also follow because there is no choice, right? So if something's not working, you have to find a new formula. What I'm sure of is that during the next 12 months, a lot of experiments are going to be done, and out of those experiments, new winning formats will win. What I'm also sure of is that new standards will be finally defined by industry association like the IAB. Right now there is a very kind of unclear area of what is native advertising, what is not, what is authorized to do, what is not authorized to do. How do you blur the line between content and ad? And how the FTC is going to play into that. So it's a new area, and there is a lot of things that are going to evolve, like in the App Store rules, but in the ad world. And I'm sure of one thing is that it's happening right now, and it's going to keep on happening during the next 18 months.
Ouriel, thank you so much for your time. You're a fantastic tour guide through the App Store and its fight against incent traffic for the past 40 minutes. Thank you for letting us pick your brain, sir.
You're welcome.
Now, to all of you, we also thank you for listening. This has been the AppInTop Mobile App Marketing Podcast. Make sure you visit our daily blog, blog.appintop.com, where you can find this great information and much, much more every single day. So until next time, I'm Mike Bauer. See ya. The AppInTop Mobile App Marketing Podcast is produced by
AppInTop.com.